Part 3, The End. If you don't tell your story, somebody else will, whether that's through state assessments or interim assessments. Other information about student performance is going to be told. This last part we're going to focus on grades and state assessments. State assessment also tells a story about academic achievement of students and the effectiveness of schools. Both student grades and the state assessment are designed to indicate student achievement against the same set of state content standards and achievement expectations. Therefore, you would expect some consistency between grades and assessment scores. And at a high level, there is consistency. The pictures on this slide show us three possible relationships between scores on the state assessment and student grades. The picture in the middle depicts what we'll probably most likely see. As student grades go up, we expect student scores on the state assessment to also go up. But we don't expect the relationship to be tight as the relationship shown on the left. And we certainly don't expect it to look like the relationship shown on the right, where there is really no relationship at all between student grades and their scores on the state assessment. We don't expect perfect agreement between student grades and their scores on state assessments because there are key differences between the two. First, there is a difference between a single assessment and multiple measures. The state assessment is a single test and will always be measurement error associated with individual student scores. Overall, the impact of measurement error should be minor even at the student level, but it may be larger for an individual student. And in general, we expect that measurement error will balance out and be negligible at the school level. The result is the difference between a snapshot in time and a summary over time. Scores on the state assessment provide a snapshot of student performance at one point in time. To the extent that grades are combined across marking periods, they provide a summary or an average of performance throughout the year, as opposed to the state assessment, which provides an indication of student performance at that one point in time when the assessment was administered. And finally, there's a difference between on-demand performance versus extended performance. Although both the state assessment and student grades are aligned to state standards and achievement expectations, classroom instruction, and therefore student grades, should be able to access aspects of the state standards that cannot be measured on an on-demand state assessment. These include class projects that require an extended period of time, use of the full writing process, including peer review, revision, and so forth. Things that just simply can't be done on an on-demand assessment. So when communicating information about student grades and their scores on the state assessment, it's important that you understand what you expect that relationship to be. And then how do you communicate those expectations to key audiences? Do you describe how the results complement each other and how each are used at the student and school level? Do you know that some audiences value or favor one over the other? Are there differences among the audience in what they value? And how does that impact how you communicate with each of those audiences? State assessment results can be most informative when new content standards, achievement expectations, or assessments are introduced. The primary purpose there is to help you calibrate your expectations with the state expectations. After that is done, you should be able to use the state assessment results to support, refine, and flesh out your story. You can do this by adding comparisons with other schools and districts. You can use them to identify strengths and weaknesses in your program over time. You can use them to ensure that your program doesn't start to drift away from the expectations in the state content standards and expectations over time. In summary, I want to close with two quotes by Thomas Guskey. Effective grading and reporting are more a challenge in effective communication than simply quantifying and documenting student achievement. The most important communication in this process is between educators and families. As communicators, it is our responsibility to make sure that our message is clear and comprehensible to those for whom it is intended. That is our story of grades. Activity 4, Comparing Expectations. In this activity, we will examine the relationship among student grades, achievement standards, and state assessment scores. Select one or two of your recent classes, approximately 20 to 30 students in total. Make a list with 4 columns. In the first column, list the student names. Next, review the state's achievement level descriptions for your grade and content area. In the second column, indicate which achievement level best describes each student's performance based on your knowledge of the student. This is not asking how your student will perform on the test, but based on what you've seen of the student's performance in class, which achievement level best describes that student's performance. In the third column, indicate the student's end-of-year grade. And then in the fourth column, indicate the student's achievement level on the state's end-of-grade assessment. When your list is complete, look at the overall relationships among the columns. Is there generally agreement among the 3 descriptions of student performance? At the group level, describe the relationships among your student grades and your description of student achievement. Between your student grades and the state assessment achievement levels. And finally, between your description of student achievement and the state assessment performance. For individual students, are there any major differences among the 3 columns? If so, can you explain those differences?